Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the most must-see podcast within the NJSSL. Welcome to The Cutting Reg. I'm your host, as usual, Reg, and with me today we have two all-star players who very much both guys deserve, as far as I'm concerned, to be in the all-star game, along with a couple other guys. Qasim, I know you made it for Taha. I don't know how you got in there, all right? There's some better receivers than you this year, but that's okay. You're still my man. I still love you, my boy. But alhamdulillah, we have joining with us from the Titans, one of the unexpected, no offense, nothing, unexpected tackle leaders this season. He is third in the season overall in tackles. A huge defensive player. He's made tackles on ZJ, or sorry, not ZJ, but on Farhan, and on some of the faster guys that we have in this league. Definitely was drafted very low for the defensive efforts that he's put in. Please welcome Naqi Abbas. Naqi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Reg. Thank you so much for having me. This is the greatest podcast in the world, and I'm just excited to be here. Honestly, this is incredible.
It's only as great as the guests that are on the show, and actually with that, allow me to introduce my second guest. Very honored to have one of Anjuman Najwan Ali Akbar's OG guys. Top guys, if you will. He is one of the best linemen in the league, both offensively. He did make the All-Star League, the All-Star game for his offensive line, if I'm not mistaken. And then also defensively, is one of the sack leaders this season. He, if not from his stats, seeing him on the field should strike fear into your heart, okay? Because if he's coming after you, ZJ, you better be afraid. Please welcome my man, Shabeeh.
Thank you, Reg. It's an honor. Followed you all season, last season. It's a great show. And when I mentioned to my sons that I have the honor of being on this show, they said, can we please just make a cameo and just pop our heads in? So therefore, they're sitting beside me because they'd rather be on this versus ESPN.
Oh my God! Well, that is a huge honor from Hassan and is Hasnan, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Hassan Hasnan. All right, excellent. Well, I hopefully they'll make a cameo on camera too at some point before the night is over. But let's get beyond to it, boys. We've got the Lions. Shabeeh playing the Lions versus Naqi and the Titans. Now, earlier this season, we all know what happened. We anticipated this would be a Goliath of a game, and lo and behold, the Lions were the only team this season to defeat the Titans. So, Naqi, first off, what was it about that game, and what is it about this game that's going to be different that allowed the Lions to win the first time, and what's going to be different that you're going to stop them this time?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a great question, and I apologize before. And I don't have any kids, so I can't have anyone else make any cameos. But they got us the first time, and I think Shah has never started a game at 10 a.m. Until that week. He started right at 10 a.m. on the dot, and about 95% of our team was missing, and so I think the infamous Heather Abbas came in for us on the O line, but. That first half, what gave us confidence was our whole team was sort of missing. We were sleeping at home. We got a little too confident, too cocky, and we still kept it 7-7 that first half. And then in the second half, surprisingly, once all of our team came there, we sort of imploded and didn't do too good. And so it was tough, man. I mean, I think the Lions' line is so incredible, both from a defensive and offensive perspective. And ZJ literally had 0.2 seconds to throw, and that's not a discredit to our offensive line or anything like that, but their defensive line is just so good. When you have Shabeeh by Shahbaz, I mean, I can't even talk trash. Like, these guys are incredible, and they really got to ZJ right away.
They've definitely been one of the league's best linemen, both offensively and defensively. And it sounds like there's basically two things that went wrong in that game. Is first off, you had Hyder on your team, and that's like an automatic loss. And he's on the Ravens, so it's not a lie. And two, I forgot the second thing I was going to say was, but that's okay. Anyways, so it sounds like your team actually did okay in the first half. The second half, your team imploded once your players got there. So, Shabeeh, now let me ask you, the Titans are definitely mentally preparing for this beast of a line, both with what I call the dubs and the shubs. You got W, you got Shabeeh, you got Shahbaz, and even Sajid is backup too. So I think that Akbar is going to be the main guy he's going to be the first man on the field, and he's going to try and get through you every time to get to the quarterback. Now he's the league leader in sacks. So what are you going to do to stop that kid from getting through your line?
So, uh, just to go back on the tale of two halves from that first
Please
matchup
do.
that we had, um, just as Nucky said, right? Yeah, there may have been a disadvantage on starting on time because half their team wasn't there.
That's what the other thing I was going to say was.
But oddly enough, he also took kind of the words right out of my mouth. The second half, when their team was almost full force, they actually played worse than they played in the first half. So you can take that as a litmus test that the second half the entire team was there, yet they still weren't able to do what they wanted to do based on whatever their game plan was. And I don't see this next game any different. Um, I believe that the second half of that game is going to be very similar to Sunday's game on both sides of the half. Now, both teams are uber talented. There's no disputing that. The football term that any given Sunday anything can happen because there is equal amounts of talent on both sides. Having said that, being humble about that, your pointed answer about Akbar. Um, all I can say is what I said in the beginning of the season during the draft. I and our team will only speak on the field by our gameplay. So our offensive line is, there. Everybody knows who they are. Akbar is extremely talented, fast, shifty, and strong. However, I don't think Akbar is going to give us fits at
Okay.
all.
Okay, Akbar, I hope you're hearing this. They basically said they don't even need to have a strategy for you. They're just gonna go on the field and they're gonna stop you left and right. If I correct me if I'm wrong, Shelby, but that's what it sounds like.
I'm saying that Akbar could play his game, and I hope he does, because what both sides don't want is excuses at the end of the game. We Either team that loses needs to tip their cap without any excuses for this round. I know what has been going around about the Shah started the game early and blah 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 blah, but this time no excuses. Akbar could come in as hot as he wants. He's either going to see me next to him or Shabazz. For that matter, it could be my son Hassan or even Sajid. I would be
Anybody.
I would be afraid going up against the folks that I just mentioned, including Dubs. So I'm not worried about the offensive line. Um, I am worried a little bit. Not worried. I am concerned about stopping the offense, and we could talk about that as we move forward in the program.
We certainly can. We certainly can. Well, Shelby, let me actually take that in another direction then. You know, your team 2 weeks ago, or I guess 2 games ago, lost to the Jaguars. Okay. Then you almost lost, like, very close game against the Jaguars again. Now, let me tell you, the Jaguars, their best player this entire season to me has been Hamza Abedi. And Hamza Abedi's record in the NJSSL speaks for itself in that his team is always terrible. So I think that, or I guess I wonder, what are you guys going to do differently? Because if the team that played the Jaguars 2 weeks in a row comes out, then the Titans' offense is going to whop them left and right. Because Basil is going to get open, Professor is going to get open, Shaw might get himself kicked out like he almost did last week. And if that happens, then your defense, forget your entire team is done at that point. Because I think that Shaw is that valuable on your team. So, what possible strategies can you have? Well, one is how is Shaw going to contain himself from getting angry at the refs or anybody else and potentially getting kicked out? And two, how are you going to find a way to keep under wraps this incredible receiving core that the Titans have?
So I'll take the first part of this, right? So off the bat, the Jags, they're uber talented. Their record did not, map and reconcile according to on paper the level of talent that they had. Now we all know there's different dynamics in a team environment that assist in wins. It took them a while to gel, but let's not give them the credit. They have really good players on that team.
It's fair.
So I'm not going to say that they didn't give us trouble. They gave us a lot of trouble. Um, the last game of the season, not as an excuse, but I can tell you that we maybe didn't go full speed ahead. But they absolutely were a handful during the playoff game, and that's because they're really talented and they did have a good game. Now, the Titans do have an exceptional receiving core. However, I do believe that our defense and our secondary is equally matched and can go step by step, given the fact that ZJ again is going to have less than 0.2 seconds to throw that ball.
Let me pause you there, Knack. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, earlier point, Akbar, if you're watching, Shabeeh called you a bum, so just be ready on game day. He nicely called you a bum. But yeah, no, I mean, it's Professor said it in an earlier podcast, Reg. I don't know if you remember, but if you're able to cover Basel, then who's going to cover Ertaza? If you cover Ertaza, who's going to cover Professor? If you cover Professor, who's going to cover? And just the list goes on and on. Who's going to cover HK? Et cetera, et cetera. And then so the receiving core is so ridiculously talented that I think as long as we're able to get ZJ protection, which again is probably the theme that every team has against the Lions, if we could somehow do that, and I saw the Jags were getting Shazan some protection during their games against the Lions. There's always a shot then, because if a bum like Shazan can throw touchdowns on these guys with a little bit of extra time, then certainly ZJ could do it too. So.
So,
I'll just say that.
so to that point, I did not say Akbar's a bum. When he's on the other side, when anybody's on the other side, they're a bum. However, just for the record, I drafted Akbar very high for the Pro Bowl, so I do value what he brings on the field. For the record, I did want to address Shah and what you mentioned about that, right?
Go for it, Shabeeh.
So here's the deal, right? For the most part, what I've seen this year in the league, everyone is a fierce competitor. And on the field, that absolutely resonates and comes out. What I have learned being close to Shah, not only with being on the Lions, but even outside of just, NJSSL, the league is extremely important to him, just the way it is for all of you and us.
As it should be.
As it should be, because it's a beautiful thing. I don't think most people understand how wonderful this is and where this can go, even for the next generations, right? So Shah, for the most part, we're all human. He always acts in the best interest of the league. No one's perfect except our imams. So I'll leave it at that. He's a fierce competitor. I wouldn't want him any other way. And to Naqi's point, if the Titans, and that's a capital IF with quotes and question marks all around it. If the Titans win, the MVPs are going to be their offensive line. It's not going to be ZJ. It's not going to be your core. It's not receivers. It's not going to be a Professor, because all of these athletes, we know what they're capable of doing. It's just a matter of, will they have enough time to perform? So if you win, again, it's going to be because of your offensive line, and you guys, good luck with that.
Oh man.
No, that's definitely a good point, because I think if you look at the line, we talked about the Titans' top receiving core. We between Ertaza, HK, Basil, Professor, that is an excellent top four guys to have. Let alone you have you, Naqi, and then on as your fifth and sixth guys. Now on the other end of things, though, I think the Lions very much have a secondary, and even when the Lions are on offense and the Titans are on defense, I think this still applies, that can very well match up with many of those guys between Shah, Sean Kazmi, Adi, Ali John or Ali Musvi, and Abbas Nathani. Oh, and Zaman. I feel like it's very even in regards to the receiving core and the secondary. So it's really going to come down to that offensive line playing that defensive line.
And,
Will the quarterback have enough time, or is he going to have to throw the ball really quick?
and Reg, that's why one of my initial comments were, although the Titans have an exceptional receiving core, the Lions will undoubtedly match them step by step. Our secondary. I have full confidence, not overconfidence, but realistic confidence that our secondary core will match the Titans step by step on that receiver core.
Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
repeating that same point. I mean, I think this might be the most, arguably the most even matchup this entire season, including the regular season and the playoffs as well. I totally agree with Chubby by that. I think they can match us offensively and defensively. And look, like there are some games in the NFL and in flag football leagues like this that are 155-44. But this is going to be one in the trenches, 150%. This comes down to the lines for sure.
I
So I
think
think I
especially.
think there's some
Go ahead.
intangibles that will make or break the winning here, right? The
Right.
intangible might,
Go
from the
ahead.
Titans side of the house, the intangible is they have a chip on their shoulder. They're playing in the semifinals against the only team that handed them that loss, right? So they come in with that chip on their shoulder. However, on the other side, the Lions come in the semifinals and want to make a statement that we will be second, the team again that hands them their second loss of the season, and the first wasn't a fluke. So those intangibles we're going to both walk in with, and it's a
I,
matter of any given Sunday.
I think there's two other things to think about though, Shoaib Height, is that one, the I mean, granted, we had this past week off, so now, kind of almost in a benefit for you, is that the Titans now have gone basically 3 weeks since their last game, and so they might be coming in cold, and that could definitely be helpful for the Lions. But on the other hand, and I think this is the biggest point that I'm gonna make before I tell you guys my prediction, and it is simply that ZJ is going to get the MVP trophy for a reason. He is ZJ. Granted, the defensive line stopped him the first time around. I don't think they had all their players like you said, like even once in that second half when they came, like I still think you were missing a couple of key guys, right, Naqi, if I'm not mistaken from the last time you played them.
We
And
were.
so I think that I'm assuming that, most of their team is going to be there for this final week. I think that even if ZJ has a quarter, like less than 1 second to throw, he's going to find the guy he needs to get the ball to in that 1 second enough times that the Titans offense will, like, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a very close game. And we'll probably go down to probably into overtime. But I think that will basically give the Titans the advantage. And I don't think that Shaw, as great and amazing of a quarterback and leader that he is, I don't think that he's going to be able to do that. And I think that, like you said, the Titans are playing with a chip on their shoulder. That defensive line is going to work their butts off to get through, and they're gonna force Shaw more than they did previously. So I think the Titans are going to take this one in overtime, at least one overtime, and the final score is going to be a 3 point difference.
I appreciate that a lot, Reg. I think look, there's only two. No disrespect to Shaw, it's one of my best friends. Obviously, he's an incredible player and athlete in this league, and then incredible outside of the field as well for starting a league with arguably the best sport in the world, which is football. But there's only two players in the NJSSL that fundamentally can change the game, no matter who their receiving core is, who their line is, how many seconds they have to throw, and it's ZJ, and then the other guy's playing the other semifinal, and so. We're very lucky and blessed to have ZJ, and we think with our team that we could win and then hopefully not let it get into overtime, win in regular time.
So I will obviously respectfully disagree with you, Reg.
As you should be.
Not on your ZJ analysis. I fully agree with that. I do respectfully disagree with your prediction. However, what I really wish is that everybody comes out full force on both sides, plays a very competitive game to each player's caliber, and please, oh please, oh please, whoever's reffing that game, let us play. Let us play. Do not let a flag be the deciding factor for the outcome of a semifinal or a championship game.
Agreed. Yeah, no, definitely. And shout out to the refs. It's been a really rough. It's been a rough season, as it pretty much always is whenever you're a ref. They're out there doing their best. Certainly, some guys are a little bit more, ready to throw the flag than others. But I think that some crucial talks with Shaw and the referees ahead of both of the games of the semifinals and the finals are going to happen. And I think we really got to let the players kind of win and lose for themselves on this one.
Yeah,
Of course,
to that,
anything blatant,
yeah.
but
No,
yeah, no, go ahead.
I'll tip my cap. It's not an easy thing. The refs did a phenomenal job. For being on either side of the line. Head ref, all of them. They did a phenomenal job. We don't have instant replay yet, but they did a phenomenal job. My request is let the players play this game.
I